There is a very good chance that one of the biggest reasons your blood pressure keeps staying high is sitting in your kitchen right now, hidden in foods you trust, routines you repeat, and ingredients you use every single day without thinking twice. And what makes this so dangerous is that many seniors believe blood pressure problems begin and end with a prescription bottle. But that is only part of the story. I'm Dr. Thomas Richard, and today I need to show you something deeply important. Certain kitchen ingredients can quietly support healthier blood pressure, while the wrong everyday choices can keep your numbers climbing even when you think you're doing everything right. Before we begin, please subscribe to this channel, turn on notifications, and join our family for simple, life-saving health guidance. Now, let me be absolutely clear because this matters, especially if you are over 60. This video is not about miracle cures. It is not about throwing away your medication. It is not about drinking one magical tea and expecting decades of artery stiffness, sodium overload, stress, poor sleep, and inflammation to disappear in a weekend. That is fantasy. What this is about is something much more powerful and much more real. It is about kitchen-level decisions that support your blood vessels, help your body handle sodium better, improve circulation, and reduce the daily pressure load on your heart. And by the end of this video, you'll know the 10 ingredients I trust most. But here is what almost nobody explains properly. Blood pressure is not managed by one pill or one number or one random healthy meal. It is shaped by what your arteries experience every day. Morning after morning, meal after meal, cup after cup, habit after habit. Some ingredients help your blood vessels relax. Some help your body release excess sodium. Some reduce inflammation. Some improve nitric oxide, the compound that tells your vessels to open instead of clamp down. And one ingredient near the end of this video is so powerful, so overlooked, and so easy to use that many people ignore it simply because it seems too ordinary to matter. Let me tell you about Helen, age 72. Helen thought she was eating carefully. She avoided dessert, rarely ate red meat, and took her blood pressure medicine faithfully every morning. Yet her readings kept drifting upward. One week she was 138/82. Then 144/86, then 149/88. She assumed aging was the problem. She assumed this was just her future. But when we looked closely at what she was actually eating, the issue wasn't just what she removed, it was what she never added. Her meals were low in fiber, low in potassium-rich whole foods, low in nitrate-rich vegetables, low in healthy fats, and overloaded with convenience foods. Her kitchen was full, but it was not helping her heart. That is why I want to count these down from number 10 to number 1, because the earlier ingredients build the foundation, and the ones near the top can completely change how you think about food and blood pressure. Stay with me, because ingredient number 1 is not exotic, not expensive, and not rare. In fact, you probably already own it. And once you understand what it does inside the body, you may start using it in an entirely different way starting tonight. Let's begin with number 10, and it surprises people because it looks so ordinary that most folks walk past it in the pantry without any excitement. Number 10 is oats. Let me tell you about Walter, 69, who believed breakfast had nothing to do with blood pressure. His morning routine was toast, processed sausage, instant coffee, and sometimes a packaged muffin if he was in a hurry. And by noon, he felt sluggish, hungry, and puffy. What Walter never understood is that oats do far more than help cholesterol. They bring soluble fiber into the day early, helping with fullness, blood sugar control, and overall cardiovascular load. When the body handles blood sugar and insulin better, blood vessels tend to function better too. Now, oats are not a drug, so don't expect a dramatic overnight drop after one bowl, but what they do is quiet and important. They help replace salty, processed breakfast with something your arteries actually appreciate. They also pair beautifully with other blood pressure-friendly ingredients we'll discuss today, like berries, ground flaxseed, pumpkin seeds, and plain yogurt. What matters here is the swap. If oats replace bacon biscuits, sugary cereal, or frozen breakfast sandwiches, you reduce sodium and add fiber in the same move. That's a double win. And for many seniors, blood pressure improves not because one ingredient is magical, but because one smart ingredient pushes several bad habits out of the way. Here's the practical way to use oats if you want results. And this is where most people get it wrong. Don't turn healthy oats into dessert. If you buy the sugary instant packets loaded with sodium and sweeteners, you lose much of the advantage. Choose old-fashioned oats or steel-cut oats when possible. Make them with water or low-fat milk, then add cinnamon, a spoon of ground flaxseed, and a few berries or chopped banana if your doctor has not restricted potassium. Keep it simple. Keep it regular. Blood pressure responds well to routines, and oats are the kind of routine-friendly ingredient that gently helps without drama. Number 9 is beans and lentils, and this one matters far more than most people realize. I once spoke with a man named Robert, 74, who told me he was cutting back on meat for his heart, but every meal he replaced it with refined bread, crackers, and canned soup. So yes, he was eating less meat, but he wasn't building a heart-protective plate. Beans and lentils are powerful because they bring fiber, plant protein, minerals, and fullness. They help reduce the dependence on processed foods that are often packed with sodium. They also support weight control, and every pound your body does not have to carry is pressure your heart does not have to pump against. What makes beans special is that they help on several levels at once, not just one. A meal with lentils, black beans, or chickpeas tends to be more satisfying and steadier for blood sugar than a meal built around refined starches. That matters because blood pressure rarely travels alone. It often comes with belly fat, insulin resistance, inflammation, and poor metabolic health. Beans are humble, yes, but they work in the background to support a healthier internal environment. Seniors who eat more legumes often end up eating fewer ultra-processed foods simply because they feel fuller and cook more real meals at home. But I need to warn you about one thing. The healthiest bean can become a blood pressure problem if it comes drowned in salty seasoning, canned brine, or processed meat. And that is exactly how many people sabotage themselves. If you use canned beans, rinse them well. Build meals with garlic, onion, lemon, olive oil, herbs, and vegetables, instead of relying on bacon grease, salty broth cubes, or packaged sauces. A simple lentil soup made at home can help your blood pressure. A restaurant bean dish swimming in sodium may do the opposite. Same ingredient, completely different outcome. Number 8 is plain yogurt, especially low-sugar, unsweetened yogurt. And before you dismiss this one, listen carefully, because Margaret, 71, almost did. She told me yogurt was just a snack, not real heart food, and yet her daily eating pattern was missing a reliable source of calcium, potassium, and protein that could help stabilize meals and reduce her cravings for saltier convenience foods later in the day. Yogurt works best not as a miracle food, but as an anchor. When used well, it supports a better breakfast, a more balanced lunch, or an evening snack that doesn't send you reaching for chips, crackers, or processed desserts. There is another reason yogurt can help older adults. As we age, appetite patterns change, digestion changes, and muscle maintenance becomes more important, especially if you are trying not to lose strength. Plain yogurt offers an easy, soft, practical food that many seniors tolerate well. It can be paired with oats, seeds, fruit, or even cucumber and herbs for a savory option. The key is plain, not candy in a cup yogurt, not dessert disguised as health food. If the container is loaded with added sugar, the benefit shrinks fast. You want something simple enough that your blood vessels would recognize it as food, not entertainment. And let me add an important caution here. Because older adults deserve nuance, not hype. If you are lactose intolerant or your doctor has given you specific dietary restrictions, yogurt may not be right for you. That's okay. The lesson is not that everyone must eat yogurt. The lesson is that balanced, minimally processed foods with useful minerals and protein often help blood pressure indirectly by improving the rest of the day. That is how real blood pressure nutrition works. It is less glamorous than internet promises, but far more dependable. Now, number 7 is where many people begin to lean forward because they've heard of it, but they've never really understood why it matters. Number 7 is dark leafy greens, especially spinach, Swiss chard, and similar greens, though the exact choice is less important than the habit of eating them often. Let me tell you about Louise, 76, who insisted she hated diet food. But when we looked at her meals, there was barely a vegetable in sight before dinner. Her lunch was often bread, cheese, and packaged soup. Her arteries were not getting much support. When she began adding cooked greens to omelets, soups, and side dishes, she wasn't dieting. She was giving her blood vessels what they had been missing. Leafy greens matter because many of them provide potassium, magnesium, fiber, and in some cases nitrates, all of which support healthier vessel function. Potassium helps counterbalance sodium in many people. Magnesium supports vascular tone. Nitrates can help the body produce nitric oxide, which encourages blood vessels to relax. And when seniors eat more greens, something subtle but important happens. They often eat less of the foods crowding the plate with sodium, saturated fat, and starch. Again, blood pressure improves not only because of what comes in, but because of what gets replaced. But this is where I need to slow down and give one of the most important cautions in the entire video. If you have kidney disease or you have been told to limit potassium or you take medications that affect potassium balance, you cannot assume more is always better. And this is where home remedies can become dangerous if people stop thinking medically. Potassium-rich foods help many people, but not everyone. If your kidneys do not clear potassium properly, too much can be harmful. So if you have chronic kidney disease, heart failure, or take certain medications, ask your clinician what amount is safe for you. Number 6 is pumpkin seeds. And I know this one sounds almost too small to matter, but that is the mistake people make. Small foods can create large shifts when they alter the pattern of your day. Harold, 67, used to keep salted crackers on the kitchen counter and grabbed them constantly, especially in the afternoon. The problem wasn't just the calories, it was the endless sodium drip. We swapped those mindless salty snacks for a measured portion of unsalted pumpkin seeds a few times a week, sometimes with fruit, sometimes sprinkled onto oats or yogurt. Suddenly, he wasn't grazing on processed salt bombs all day. Pumpkin seeds bring magnesium, healthy fats, and a satisfying crunch, which matters more than people realize. You're far more likely to stick with a healthier blood pressure plan if the food feels pleasurable. Miserable diets do not last. Crunch matters, flavor matters, satisfaction matters, and pumpkin seeds can help provide that while supporting a meal pattern that is less dependent on processed snacks. They also work well in soups, salads, cooked vegetables, or even blended into homemade toppings. The point is not to treat them like medicine. The point is to use them as strategic replacements for the kinds of snack foods that quietly push blood pressure upward. Just remember this: unsalted is the key word, because the salted versions can undo the whole benefit. This is true with nuts, seeds, broths, canned goods, sauces, and even healthy snack mixes. People think they are helping themselves, but the sodium content quietly takes over. Blood pressure management often comes down to details this small, not dramatic mistakes, daily ones, tiny, repeated, almost invisible choices. Number 5 is extra virgin olive oil, and I want you to stay with me here because most people misunderstand this completely. They think olive oil helps because it is healthy fat, and that phrase is so vague it becomes useless. But here is the real point. Olive oil can support blood pressure partly because it helps people build a Mediterranean-style pattern of eating. Vegetables, beans, fish, herbs, simple meals, fewer processed sauces, less butter, less shortening, less deep-fried junk. That overall pattern matters enormously. Olive oil is not just a liquid, it is often the gateway to a different way of cooking. Consider Patricia, 73, who thought she was eating lightly because she avoided heavy dinners. But her vegetables were often drowned in bottled dressings, her pans were sprayed and filled with processed seasonings, and most of her flavor came from salty sauces, not real ingredients. Once she began roasting vegetables with olive oil, garlic, onion, and herbs, she ate more vegetables naturally, used less packaged seasoning, and enjoyed her meals more. That is exactly how a beneficial ingredient works in real life. It does not just change one number. It changes behavior. Now, do not make the mistake of treating olive oil like a free-for-all. It is calorie-dense, and more is not automatically better. You do not need to drink it or flood every meal with it. What you need is to use it intelligently. On vegetables, in bean dishes, in dressings with fish, in place of heavily processed fats and salty flavor systems. Blood pressure-friendly nutrition is not sterile. It can be rich, comforting, warm, and deeply satisfying. Olive oil helps make that possible, and that is one reason it earns a spot high on this list. Number 4 is ground flaxseed, and I wish more seniors knew about this one because it is one of the easiest upgrades you can make without changing your whole life. Eleanor, 70, told me she didn't have the energy to start a diet. And I understood exactly what she meant. At her age, she did not want food rules stacked to the ceiling, so instead of changing 10 things at once, we started with 1 tablespoon of ground flaxseed added to breakfast most days. Oatmeal, yogurt, even sprinkled into soup after cooking. It was simple, inexpensive, and easy to repeat. Ground flaxseed works because it brings fiber and plant compounds that support cardiovascular health. And some research has found modest improvements in blood pressure when flaxseed is used regularly over time. Notice the phrase I used, over time. This is not a one-day fix, it is a consistency ingredient. The people who benefit most from foods like flaxseed are usually the people who stop chasing miracles and start repeating the same helpful habits long enough for the body to respond. That is how blood pressure improves in the real world. Gradually, quietly, reliably. But there is a practical detail here that matters. Whole flax seeds often pass through the body with much less benefit. So ground flaxseed is usually the smarter choice. Store it properly, use it steadily, and don't dump huge amounts into your food. Thinking more is better. A small daily habit beats a giant burst of enthusiasm that disappears in 4 days. Seniors who do well with blood pressure nutrition usually master one thing above all: repeatability. Number 3 is hibiscus tea, and this is where many people become skeptical because it sounds too simple. Tea? Really? Yes, really. Let me tell you about James, 78, who had an afternoon ritual that was damaging him more than he understood. Every day at 3 p.m. he sat down with packaged cookies, salted crackers, and a sugary drink, and then wondered why his ankles puffed up and his evening blood pressure stayed stubbornly high. We did not just remove a bad habit, we replaced it. His new routine became hibiscus tea and a small heart-healthier snack. That one shift changed far more than he expected. Hibiscus has been studied for blood pressure support, and while it is not a replacement for medical treatment, it may help some people modestly, especially when used consistently as part of a healthier pattern. But there is another reason I like it in the right person. It creates a ritual of slowing down, and that matters. Many seniors are not just dealing with sodium, they are dealing with stress, rushing, emotional eating, loneliness, and nervous system overload. Sitting down with a calming, unsweetened tea instead of a processed snack can lower more than just calories. It can lower the intensity of the whole afternoon. Still, I need to be careful here because natural does not mean harmless. If you take blood pressure medications, diabetes medications, or several prescription drugs, you should ask your clinician before making hibiscus a daily medicinal habit. Especially in large amounts. Some herbs can interact with medications or push blood pressure too low in sensitive people. So enjoy the benefit, but respect the biology. That is the rule I want you to remember for every home remedy you ever hear. Now we are at number 2, and this is one people either love or avoid completely. Number 2 is beetroot, whether roasted, added to salads, blended carefully, or used in other simple forms. Let me tell you about Dennis, 68, who laughed when I mentioned beets. He said, "Doctor, I'm not eating purple dirt." And that is what many people think until they understand what beets may do inside the body. Beetroot contains natural nitrates, and the body can convert those into nitric oxide, a signaling molecule that helps blood vessels relax. Relaxed vessels mean less resistance. Less resistance means less pressure. This is one reason beetroot has become such a serious conversation in blood pressure nutrition. In some studies, nitrate-rich beet products have shown modest reductions in systolic blood pressure, especially in people already dealing with hypertension. But I want to translate that into plain English. Beetroot is not helping because it is trendy. It is helping because your arteries are living tissue. They are constantly responding to what you feed them. And when you give the body raw materials that support better vessel function, it can respond in measurable ways. Now, here is the mistake people make with beets. They turn them into sugar delivery systems. Beet muffins, beet chips coated in salt, beet drinks with sweeteners, and suddenly the original advantage gets diluted by everything wrapped around it. Keep it simple. Roasted beets with olive oil and herbs, sliced beets in salad with beans, a moderate portion added to a meal. And if you are on medication, especially if your blood pressure already runs low at times, pay attention to your readings. Helpful is good, too much drop is not. And now we arrive at number 1. The ingredient that makes some people raise an eyebrow because it is so common they cannot imagine it belongs at the top. But after decades of watching what actually helps patients, I can tell you this ingredient deserves your respect. Number 1 is garlic. Let me tell you about Gloria, 75. Her blood pressure was never catastrophic, but it hovered too high for comfort. Not enough to terrify her, just enough to threaten her quietly year after year. And that is how high blood pressure harms people, not always with drama, often with repetition. Gloria's biggest problem was flavor. She kept trying to eat healthy, but her food tasted flat, so she went back to salt, packaged sauces, frozen meals, and processed seasonings. Once we rebuilt her cooking around garlic, onion, herbs, lemon, olive oil, beans, and vegetables, something important happened. She no longer felt punished by food. She felt nourished by it. Garlic may support blood pressure directly in some people, and research on garlic preparations has shown meaningful effects in certain hypertensive groups. But even beyond that, garlic helps in a second, incredibly powerful way. It makes low-sodium food taste like real food. That second effect is what most people miss, and it may be the most important part of all. If an ingredient helps your blood pressure a little on its own, that is nice. But if it also helps you stop overusing salt, processed marinades, canned flavor packets, and bottled sauces, now it is doing double duty. Garlic turns vegetables into something you want to eat. It turns beans into comfort food. It turns fish into dinner instead of obligation. It helps seniors stay with the plan long enough for the plan to work. And in real life, adherence is everything. But I must give one caution here, and please take this seriously, especially if you are on blood thinners. Garlic, particularly in concentrated supplement form, can increase bleeding risk in some people when combined with certain medications. Using garlic in normal cooking is one thing. Swallowing high-dose supplements because the internet promised you a miracle is something else entirely. Respect that difference. Food can help you. Supplements can complicate things if you do not know what you are doing. Now, before we finish, I need to tell you something even more important than the top 10 list itself. These ingredients only help if they live inside the right pattern. If you add garlic to a frozen pizza, sprinkle flaxseed over a sugary pastry, drink hibiscus tea with a bag of salty chips, or roast beets next to processed sausages every night, you are sending mixed messages to your arteries. Blood pressure improves when your kitchen becomes consistent. Less sodium, more real food. Better flavor from herbs, garlic, lemon, onion, olive oil, beans, greens, seeds, and whole grains. That is the real remedy. Let me show you what this can look like in a normal day, because seniors need practicality, not theory. Breakfast could be oats with ground flaxseed and plain yogurt. Lunch could be lentil soup with greens and olive oil. Dinner could be fish or beans with roasted beets, cooked spinach, and garlic-seasoned vegetables. And an afternoon hibiscus tea if it is appropriate for you. Nothing there is extreme. Nothing requires gourmet talent. Nothing depends on expensive powders or miracle drops. It is ordinary food used with extraordinary consistency. And consistency is what changes the numbers. Not one good meal, not one healthy week, not one burst of fear after a bad blood pressure reading, followed by 3 weeks of old habits. Hypertension is patient. It waits. It responds to what you do repeatedly. So if you want a kitchen that protects you, do not ask, "What can I try once?" Ask, "What can I repeat calmly for the next 6 months?" That question changes everything. I also need to say this for those of you who are worried because your numbers have been high lately. Please do not use this video as an excuse to delay care. If your blood pressure is severely elevated, if you have chest pain, shortness of breath, severe headache, weakness, confusion, or stroke-like symptoms, that is not a tea and garlic situation. That is a medical situation. Food is powerful, but it is not an emergency room. The goal is not pride. The goal is protection. Your brain, kidneys, heart, and blood vessels do not care whether the help came from a prescription, a better breakfast, or both. They care that the pressure comes down safely. Let me bring this all together with one final story. Samuel was 79 and exhausted by confusion. One article told him to drink juice. Another told him to avoid fruit. One friend told him to take 10 supplements. Another said medication was poison. And he felt trapped between fear and frustration. So we simplified everything. Real breakfast, more beans, more greens, garlic instead of excess salt, olive oil instead of processed fats, flaxseed in the morning, hibiscus tea only after checking that it fit with his medications, beetroot a few times a week, not perfection, just direction. 3 months later, his home readings were steadier, his swelling was better, and most importantly, he finally felt in control. That is what I want for you. Not obsession, not panic, control, a calm kitchen, a repeatable routine, ingredients that serve your heart instead of ambushing it, and enough knowledge to stop being fooled by miracle promises. Because the truth is, blood pressure management is rarely built on one dramatic secret. It is built on quiet things done faithfully. A bowl of oats, a spoon of flaxseed, a pan of greens with garlic and olive oil, a cup of hibiscus tea, a lower sodium plate repeated often enough to matter. Your blood pressure is shaped by what you repeat. Your future is shaped by what you start repeating now. Take care of yourself, protect your heart, and I'll see you in the next video.